Moment of truth then, the most powerful gaming PC I've ever built. So I can tell you exactly how much power we're using. Quite a lot. This is the RTX 3090, and it is ridiculously expensive. If you're buying this for gaming, then you're mad. But that's not going to stop us putting together the most powerful gaming PC you can build right now. Oh yeah. In this video, we're going to go through all of the parts featured. We're going to show you exactly how to put this thing together, show you what it looks like, how it performs, and of course, give you all of those gameplay benchmark numbers that you've been craving for. Oh, and you guys said that the videos are getting stale. They're all the same. So we're going to talk about the parts as we put it together, because that makes it completely different. The case that we're using here today is brand new from Corsair. This is the 4000D. This is of course the airflow version, which is going to be fantastic for airflow, but you can also get more of an RGB one with a glass front if you're after something that's a little bit more blingy. It's a good size actually, and you've got USB-C on the front. There is only one USB Type A, which is a bit disappointing. I don't like it when companies do that. Give us 2 A's and 1 C, it would make a lot more sense. But anyway, you're making a little bit of a trade-off there. But otherwise, this thing looks the business. It's pretty affordable as well, actually. It's around about, what is it, 80-ish pounds, give or take a bit. But what you do save on the case, we're definitely going to be firmly pumping into the motherboard. This is the Asus ROG Maximus Extreme 7. And you're getting an extreme motherboard. It is ridiculously heavy actually. I mean, this just looks the business. It's E80X, so it's a little bit bigger than your standard motherboard, but most importantly, it's got a load of high-end features. We've got things like 10 gig networking. We've even got 2 USB-C headers. I don't think I've seen that on a motherboard before, but realistically, this is all about overclocking your chip as far as it will go. So if you're looking for something high-end, this definitely fits the bill. Plop the motherboard on the box and take off all of these horrible stickers that they always put on the SATA ports. Then you can open up the slot and insert our CPU. And today we're using a Core i9, but we're not using the 10900K. And you might be thinking, that's crazy, you lied, you said it's the most powerful gaming PC, why are you lying to us again? Well, realistically, it's because this is just, I don't know, a bit of a strange CPU, and it's the clear choice, I think, for anyone that is serious about overclocking, because it is identical to the 10900K, but this 10850K has 0.1 gigahertz lower boost clock, I believe. So if you're going to be overclocking it manually anyway, it is the same chip. Save yourself whatever it's going to be, 20, 50 quid, and get this, free money. Apart from the thousands of pounds that you're spending on the rest of the system, but you know, every little helps. I'm Tesco today. Americans don't know what Tesco is. And yes, I know, it's not got PCI Generation 4. It's a disaster! If you're building a gaming PC, it does make more sense to actually get the fastest possible gaming CPU to match that fastest gaming GPU. I'm not bashing Ryzen, I promise. There's room for Intel and Ryzen. I do both videos. If you don't believe me, subscribe to the channel and see them all. Let's talk about the RAM though. This is 32 gigabytes of 3600 megahertz Corsair Dominator Platinum. Completely unnecessary, you don't need to spend this much money on RAM, but this looks absolutely incredible and it is very much fitting with that white and black theme that we're going for today. I mean, if this isn't the best looking stick of RAM I think you've ever come across, then where have you been all your life? I would actually recommend though that you grab 2 sticks of 16 if you can, just because it gives you some upgradability. I mean, it won't be to everybody's taste. At the moment it does look like we've got some white RAM on a black motherboard, but it's all going to come together, I promise. Next up, we have our SSD. This is the Samsung 970 EVO Plus. It's a little bit more expensive than some of its competition, but it's got some of the highest read-write speeds out there. And as I say, if you're building a very high-end PC and you can't go for Gen 4 storage, you may as well saturate the Gen 3 that we do have, or at least get close to it. Just gently push that down into place and screw it in. Then drop your cover back over the top. Or better yet, completely ignore what I'm saying and do remember to actually take the thermal pad protective covers off, otherwise they won't do anything. Corsair, no. The thumb screws are not factory tightened. Big thumbs up, though it's a bit hard to take this side panel off. Oh, I'm liking that though, look at that. That is cable management material. We are actually swapping out the fans, so I'm going to start by removing the exhaust. Hold on a minute, have we got clearance? Have we actually got clearance? That would be pretty bad if this doesn't fit E80X now, wouldn't it? Bum. The build is off. The build is off. Oh my God, it comes out. We're saved. Yes, yes. Should I just cut all of that out of the video and pretend it didn't happen? Make sure that your IO shield has been pre-fitted. If it hasn't, then you're gonna need to insert it now. Then you will need to take this little cable management panel out of the case, otherwise it just won't fit in, trust me. I know from experience this won't fit in unless you remove it. Once you're all screwed in, you can then put your cable management bar back in, just move it to the right, there's a little slot for it. To access our front fans, the front section simply just plops off like that, nice and easily. There's a little dust filter which also plops out. And then you can just unscrew the fans with a standard screwdriver. If you can afford a 3090, you can afford some fancy fans. Now at this point, I'm sure Corsair would love for me to tell you about how good their ML RGB fans are, but instead we're using some Lee & Lee fans. These are their brand new Uni fans. And the reason that we're going for these today is because somewhere down here, we're also using a Lee & Lee 360mm liquid all-in-one cooler. Looks really cool. This one's called the Galahad. But these fans actually are called the Uni fans because they all connect together. So when it comes to cable management, you actually only need one cable pretty much to do the lot. And they're white, which means that they go perfectly with this case. You see why I chose it now, Corsair? I'm not being evil. They just go. You should make some of these. The plan is then that we're going to have this one fan here as an exhaust. We're going to put two more at the top as an exhaust. But before we do that, I want to put the radiator in as it's going to make cable management a little bit easier. We're using a 360 right at the front, and of course all of them will be an intake. I didn't even realize that this was white. Look at this. We have that lovely white braided cable for the tubing. This pump unit looks a little bit different. It's a bit larger, but we've got white around the base and then almost like a brushed metal around the top. There'll be RGB. And then of course we have our 360mm radiator. It's now time to actually put these fans together, which in theory should just line up and then click. And then we need one more because it's a triple radiator, of course. So do the same again, line it up, click, done. How easy was that? To see if I can make installation a little bit easier, what I'm going to do is screw two of these screws down so it's loose but relatively secure, because now you see I don't need to actually line up any screw holes. They're all done for me, and it makes installing this a lot easier. Fast forward around about 30 minutes or so and I've got all of the fans installed, everything is plugged in, we've got all of the stuff around the back organized. The only thing really that I need to note is that we're using this Lee & Lee Unifan box. It is only the RGB that I'm using here today, but the choice is entirely up to you. I just love using the Motherboard software as I find it's a little bit easier, more robust and more reliable. Which after seemingly ages actually leads us on to our next component. This is the power supply. We've gone very big here today. This is the ROG Thor 1200 watt power supply. 850 watts should be sufficient, but I would always go a little bit above the minimum, to be honest, as you don't want to be running into any potential issues, especially if you are going to overclock, upgrade in the future. It's what I would recommend, really. Having said that, the ROG Thor, while a fantastic power supply, does have a little bit of an issue in that it has a really cool screen so you can get a power readout, but you're not going to be able to see it in this case. You just have to take the back off and have a look. Which, to be fair, how often do you actually want to know how much power you're using? Not that often. Maybe pick a slightly different case. You do also get fully braided cables as standard though, which is definitely a plus. These look great. I do find it a little bit odd though that not all of the cables are braided. It's only the ones that you're going to see. So we've got 3 PCIe, which is great, but then our SATA around the back is pretty bog standard. Which just leaves us then with the star of the show, the RTX 3090. And I believe this is actually going to be the exact same cooler as the one we saw on the 3080. So shouldn't be any surprises here. It is a very big graphics card. Doesn't seem to be quite as big as the 3080 and 3090 Strix, but I really love the look of this. I think MSI's card is excellent. Let's plop this bad boy inside. Just with that, we're pretty much done. We've got all of our power connections in, graphics card, CPU, everything at the top. Fans, of course. Oh, around the back, you can see with pretty much no cable management, really, just basic routing. There's not that much work that needs to be done. You just tie this down here, stick this in the basement, tidy it up, but otherwise all good. Shall we see if it works? Moment of truth then, the most powerful gaming PC I've ever built. All those fans look amazing, look at that. I didn't even realize the design of that. Whoa, Lee & Lee, nice job. this disc actually comes off, so you can have it saying Lee and Lee if you want, or you can put this on and then have the design that I've gone for. But will we get a display output? That's the big question. Hooray! That's my kind of CMOS error. Here we are then, it's a brand new day and we are in the BIOS, and I've set the all core ratio to 51. So remember, this is all cores now at 5.1 gigahertz rather than just 1 or 2 boosting up to that. I am letting down Team England though, as this is a cup of coffee, not tea. I know. In all seriousness though, the only real thing that I think I need to report about this is that when you do overclock it, it does of course generate a little bit more heat and a little bit more noise. And I would actually probably leave this at stock unless you're playing a game that you knew was CPU limited. It required 1.45 volts to actually get this thing stable at 5.1 gigahertz on all cores. And that's a lot. Here we are in Forza Horizon 4, and this looks absolutely stunning. It's by far the best looking racing game I think I've played in a long time. And bear in mind, this is at absolute max settings. This is extreme settings, so even past the ultra preset, and we're getting 150 frames a second at the moment. And I'd like to point out as well, not only that I don't normally play games like this with a keyboard and mouse, but the GPU's actually not really making any noise. Clearly the cooling solution on this Gaming X is doing a fantastic job. In fact, I can tell you exactly how much power we're using. Quite a lot. 570 watts at the moment. 570 watts. Next up we have Far Cry 5, and this game is one of the best looking out there. It's absolutely phenomenal, and we're getting a frame rate of anywhere between 95 and 120 frames a second. And when paired with this 120 frames a second 4K monitor, to say you're getting the most out of it would be an understatement. And obviously yes, the value of this card and this whole PC is definitely not the best. I mean, that's not why I've made this video, not to say everyone should go out and buy a 3090, because that's clearly not true. But it really is quite impressive to see what cutting edge tech can get you. This is a pretty epic experience. If you're more of a competitive sport, then maybe some Apex Legends will get you going. And here we are at 4K, and we're getting around about 125 frames a second, though I've made the mistake of landing in the city, which is obviously a lot more intensive than the rest of the areas. But regardless, super smooth, fully maxing out this monitor at the moment. There's a guy, I've not got the guns, I've not got the hardware, I've not got armor, it's all gone wrong. Can he do it? He's got the sense and all. No, he can't. Why does Battlefield take so long to set up and load? You've got to install stuff, you've got to enable ray tracing, you've got to then restart the game, and it just goes on and on and on, but we made it. And here we are now running in single player with everything on, including ray tracing, DLSS, and we're getting around about 86 frames a second. And let's be honest, this isn't actually that impressive. I don't think this game is actually as well optimized as it should be. This is obviously the first generation of DLSS and the first implementation of ray tracing, but it's still interesting nonetheless, and you can of course compare this to the RTX 2080 Ti when that came out to see just how much of an improvement that we're getting. But the reason I wanted to put this in single player is to actually show you a little bit of overclocking. So we're currently getting around about 105 frames a second. We've added 66 megahertz, so we're now exceeding 2000 at 2025, plus 106, so we're now getting 2070. Let's just double check that this is stable by playing a little bit. 155, so there you go, about 2115. That was pretty much the limit really that we were getting on the 3080, so I'd expect this to be about the same. Overclocked to the limit then. Retesting Far Cry, what improvement are we going to get? Note that some games actually do alter the boost clock, which is really annoying, so I've actually increased it a bit more than I had in Battlefield because it was just naturally lower, which is stupid. So here we go, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? What's it going to be? 111 frames a second, so that's now 6 frames a second faster than we had before. And of course that's what, just around about 10-ish frames a second more than you get on the 3080. So there we go, the world's fastest gaming PC until NVLink and another one of these comes along. Let me know your thoughts on this. I absolutely love the case actually. I think Corsair have done a cracking job. It's not perfect, but it's definitely the best one they've made in years. Those Lee and Lee Uni fans as well, not only were they very simple to put together, but they have a bit of a unique look to them that makes the whole thing stand out. Same with the CPU cooler. It's not the most unique thing out there, but it does give a little bit of edge, I guess, to the whole design of what we've gone for here. Obviously, the CPU does run very hot, and overclocking is quite limited with what we've got here, even though it's a great airflow case and a 360mm radiator. The 3090 probably isn't worth buying for a lot of people. It's for people that need all of that extra VRAM, but if you have a silly amount of money to spend on the fastest gaming PC, then so far, this has got to be it. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you want to learn more about any of the parts featured, you can find my Amazon affiliate links and current pricing listed down below. But let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think the RTX 3090 makes sense, or would you rather go for something else? Are you waiting for maybe like a 3060? Love to hear from you, so let me know. Smash that like button if you enjoyed it, it helps out so much you honestly wouldn't believe. Get subscribed for more videos just like this, and of course if you do want to see a 3080 build, you can find that in the end screen. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one.